Hello and welcome to Beyond the Index, a brand new 6-part video series which serves as your strategic compass for navigating today's fast-moving B2B world. This series is powered by Dentsu B2B's 5th iteration and very latest Superpowers Index, the largest global study of B2B buying behaviour, bringing you insights from over 16,000 B2B buyers across 35,000 brand experiences. So we can tell you exactly what it really takes to win. Beyond the Index takes a deeper dive into key topics with experts from across our business and leaders from the B2B industry. So let's get started. I'm Jason Fletcher, the Executive Creative Director of Dentsu B2B, and your host today. Our discussion is about, in this new era of AI, how important creativity will be for B2B. I'm absolutely delighted to have two very progressive thinkers and very positive marketeers with me today. I have John Carroll from Navigator Global and Caitlin Ryan from Dentsu Creative. So hello to you both.
Good to see you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself and say a little bit about your role.
So, as you said, I am Caitlin Ryan. I am the creative partner for Dentsu Creative. So look after creatives across all of the different disciplines that we offer at DC.
So I'm John Carroll. I'm the CEO of Navigator Global, which is a company which is owned by Santander, but which has been developed very happily, I would say, Jason, with Dentsu, particularly on the tech, data and marketing front. It's essentially a platform which is designed to help international or SMEs to go international. It's a one-stop shop, and that's what I run here based in London.
Great, and a pleasure it is to be working on that with you, John. So as you know, today's discussion points are all fueled by our latest version of the Superpowers Index. So I'm going to make some discussions based on some of this year's findings. And the first one that Superpowers tells us is that 69% of B2B buyers agree that many of the brands that they see whilst they're at work are saying very similar things within their marketing and communications, and pretty much they all sound and act the same. My feeling is that this could only be amplified by the challenge that AI gives us. So Caitlin, if you don't mind, I'll come to you first. What do you think this means for B2B creativity and our use of AI tools?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's been sort of talked about in the industry of the sea of sameness, and I've come from Meta, and we talked a lot at Meta to our clients and brands about the fact they're all surfing the same algorithm. So if you're getting customer signal as one brand, your competitor is getting the same signal. So how do you differentiate? And I think for me, that is it's that differentiation. Like, how can you be hyper relevant within your brand world to a customer without ignoring the signal that they're giving you? And I think that for me is the superpower, is to be highly relevant. You need to be not so much personalized, but personal, and think about what does this brand mean to me? And the brand needs to be able to reflect that, because you're giving out signal, and the worst thing about giving out signal and a brand not responding is it feels off. So I think that creativity being the new targeting is the opportunity, and I think that's how we move away from the sea of sameness and letting brands to be really distinctive and hyper relevant and hyper personal, not personalized.
I think that's super powerful, and for me, one of the things that we're learning about AI, and the fact is that a lot of the data that it's generating is based on historical information, and we talk a lot at Dentsu Creative about being ready for brands and what's next for them and where we're going next. So that idea that we can predict whilst being hyper relevant to our audiences will make that work even more powerful. And John, if you don't mind me turning to you about our passion project together when we talk about Navigator Global. And we know that AI search, the likes of Gemini, for example, are becoming a go-to for SMEs. and we've recognised as part of our project the importance of real human local market expertise. For you, why is that so important over the AI search?
You've touched on a really good point, because normally when you probably speak to something which is owned by a bank, you would think that I'm most fearful of another bank. I'm absolutely not. I'm definitely more fearful of those who are behind the AI tool. So for us, the human part's really important, but it's digital first with a human touch. We're going to be launching in 20 markets by the end of next year, and 35 by 2028. So to do this, generally at a scalable basis, you do need to have a digital first platform. But the human touch is absolutely crucial. And this gets back to what is on our clients' minds. So those SMEs who are trading internationally, for them, trust is an absolutely crucial point. So we need to understand where we can position ourselves against the ChatGPTs and the Gemini. So there's really two key elements here, which I could sort of bring out. One is on that human touch point that you touched on. So if you Google or you basically ChatGPT right now, how do I sell my medical device into Japan? It will give you the steps that you need to know, and it'll be based on the data which has been mined. What it won't tell you is that for step 4, it requires you to get intellectual property, and it requires you to actually choose one of the 65 providers in Tokyo. What we've done for many years is we know who are the people you can trust. So we're actually recommending, based on our own knowledge and our own market specialists, who you should speak to. So if you're just using the algorithm, how can you trust that algorithm? Yeah. So we are putting our reputation on what we've done for many years. So we believe this is the people you should be dealing with in Tokyo. The second point then is on intelligence. And so AI is only as good as the data which it's mining. So there are certain things happening today. We've got people speaking to Toyota in Tokyo, people speaking to Lulu, which is the supermarket in the Middle East, and they're saying this is what we want for the next quarter. That information is valuable and live today, but it's only available on the platform, so it can't be mined. So we need to do one of two things. One is to use our intelligence in a way which you can only get it via the platform, but crucially give you access to a human when it's needed to be able to materialize your opportunities.
Fantastic. And I think that word trust is like the highly important one here, certainly when we think about our local market expertise and your verified suppliers and providers that you can introduce the SME to. So thanks for that, guys. Our second discussion point really is one around experts and influencers. Superpowers is telling us that 65% of our buying audience agree that experts and influencers have a growing impact on the brands that they want to engage with. So Kaylin, if I can come to you first, we now see the rise of B2B influencers, and we know how important they are to platforms like our partners at LinkedIn. And we're also at the dawn of that era of virtual influencers, which are somewhat scarily becoming very good very quickly. What possibility do you think that this will deliver for brands?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock not to see what's happening the moment you go onto LinkedIn. And I think it's really exciting creative opportunity when you think about LinkedIn and podcasts and what's happening in the B2B space with influencers. So people are talking about it like it's this very new thing, but I mean, testimonials is an age-old way of selling. Humans buy from humans that they trust, and so the kind of use of kind of hijacking a trusted voice on behalf of a brand is not a new thing, but I think again technology has enabled us to scale that. On virtual influencers, I think it's an interesting one, and back to the conversation before of when do you use AI for scale and when do you use AI for creative effectiveness. And I get my bugbear is I think we're talking too much about AI just being used for scale, and actually the ability to be able to create really highly effective experiences through AI. But is that right with virtual influencers? So in my opinion, I think things like onboarding to a SaaS product, great for a virtual influencer. Trusting in a case study that's quite highly complex and has a kind of technical complexity to it, I think you're going to have to want to trust a human. And then I think the way brands are using, in the B2B space, using influencers, things like our BT campaign, where we used, what was her name, Justine?
Jenny Radcliffe.
Jenny Radcliffe. So it was like this master hijacker. So she was like helping businesses understand how they could, what cybersecurity they need to think about. So it was really great match for what businesses wanted to know about and what BT can provide. So I think there's a really interesting creative space for thinking about not just influencers with reach, but influencers with depth of knowledge in the B2B space. And the other one I'm really excited about is the role that employees can show. And this is where I think LinkedIn are being super clever about how they're really galvanizing the voice of employee and stakeholders to talk about a brand in a way that customers can really experience. What would it be like to work with this business? I'm hearing it from the shop floor, if you like. So I'm getting very excited about that. I don't think we've kind of creatively gone as far as we can as an industry in understanding the voice of employees. But again, it's actually an age-old technique when you look at things like John Lewis partnerships or, that idea of trusting an employee more than you do an ad is
Absolutely,
really interesting.
Absolutely. And I also feel like when you're looking to hire the best talent, we now know basically, from a straw poll of my nephews, that the place that they start when they're looking to see where they want to work is looking at who's working somewhere on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
What are they saying? And then they're actually going to their TikToks and their Instagram channels to see what they really like as people to try and judge, where they want to work next.
Reddit, I think, is one of the biggest go-to places before somebody signs on. People will go and check the Reddit, kind of conversation.
Really interesting. Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Very different kind of dynamic of how you make decisions now.
Absolutely. John, okay, so when it
I'm
comes to...
taking notes for this one, by the way, so I think it's fantastic.
So when it comes to international trade, we have touched on the trust word already, but I think it's important to think about what type of thought leadership SMEs are asking for today, and potentially how are they consuming it, in your opinion, but also just a nod to the future. What do you think may be coming down the line about how SMEs, as we know, incredibly busy people, short time to spend with us, but how are we going to deliver that information? What are your feelings on that?
It's a good question. I think probably two parts: the what and the how. So, on the what, we have a pretty good idea. We've been doing, thankfully, a trade barometer, an in-depth report for about over 10 years now, and consistently they come back with one of five themes, which is who wants to buy my product overseas, or how do I source a new supplier? How do I deal with all of the regulation, which is quite complex internationally? For those that make things, how do I ship or fly my goods over to the destination? How do I get paid? And for many companies, you need to sometimes physically set up in the market to access. So those are the five things which are consistently coming out, and there's differences between sectors and differences between countries. Now, think of those five things and think what's happening today. It is absolute mayhem out there if you're an SME doing international business. And so if you're Vodafone or you're BT or BP or Inditex, you've got 30 lobbyists in Washington who are fighting your corner. If you're the medical devices company in Oxford or the wine company in Rioja in Spain, you don't have that access. So that's why it's so important what we're trying to do. We're trying to give them that guiding light to say this is where you need to be aware of, and this is how we can position you to be successful. So the what is quite clear. You need to be coached with these new opportunities and challenges, and you need to have that support which we can provide on the ground. Now, the how point though is really, and that's why I was listening so intently. The how for me really is crucial, and so I'll never say again personalised. I'll say personal. I will change again, but it does get back to what an SME is thinking about every day. Every day they're thinking about running their business. They haven't got time to go to Washington to the lobby. They've got 20 minutes on a Saturday where they can potentially think a bit more strategically and know the trends. So their two big issues are being time poor, as you say, and the trust factor that we touched on beforehand, right? They know what's going on in that local market. They know who the right business, but they don't know who to speak to overseas. So for me, there's three things really which are really important. The first is you need to be super personal. So you need to provide something which is relevant to them. What has happened so much in international trade is that we have this library of information. Well, I haven't got time to go. I need to get something delivered to me. So that's really, really important. The second thing for me is influencers. So I'm a big fan, and I agree with you. I was hoping you wouldn't say virtual influencers were important for international trade, because you do need to have someone who's done it, who you can trust. Yeah. So, if you are someone who is making medical devices, you want to listen to somebody who has done it, but it has to be personal to you. Yeah, there's no use listening to someone who has sold aerospace parts to you want to know what's going on. So that the personal part and the influence is crucial. Now, the how, though, and this is why I'm really interested to see how it's become scalable, is I need to get the attention of these people, that they're not going to read long form articles of 50 pages on regulatory changes in China. You need to make this really succinct, make it engaging and entertaining. And that's why the creative part for me is so important as we move forward. But the challenge, which I throw back to you, Jason, is I need to do this in 20 markets next year. So how do I get something which is engaging to someone who's based in China, who's also based in India, and who's based in the UK? And that's really, I think, the exciting challenge for us as we move forward.
Absolutely. And potentially that's where we explore the use of agents as well, and AI agents, and how do we do that at scale, as you quite rightly say, John. So discussion point 3 is really around the fact that Superpowers has told us that 72% of our audience are saying that the marketing and comms that they're receiving from brands have become much more creative and interesting over the past year. So Caitlin, this is obviously good news for us and our craft. But how do we keep our partners and our clients to encourage them to be brave at a time when budgets are definitely tightening up and timings are tightening up somewhat even more? How would you encourage clients, again, around that bravery?
Yeah, and I think it's such an interesting word, bravery. And it's one that's thrown all around a lot, like, oh, if only the client was braver, we would have got this work away. And it's like, what do you mean by brave? Because you can wander off into the night without a map. And I wouldn't say that's brave, I would say that's foolish. Or you can be equipped with a really good map and tools and a North Star, knowing where you're trying to get to, and go to somewhere that no one's been before, and brave. But you're doing that in a really considered way. And I think that's what we need to help clients do, is to have that roadmap and all be really clear of, let's listen to the signal, let's be open and constantly on alert to what we're being told, not in a foolhardy way, just driving forward. So I think that for me is a big thing. I mean, obviously because of my background and the way we think at Dentsu, we're very keen on data and being really understanding what people want from a brand. So my feeling is it's not to do with budget constraints and timing. It's like, and I think when people are saying, oh, I'm here, things are more creative, more interesting, what they're saying is things are more relevant to me. And that's what AI is enabling us to make brands really relevant to customer segments in kind of new and interesting ways. So more of that, please. And I think that's how we can, really find spaces where brands haven't been before. Thinking about product development, which in the advertising industry, we've always been kind of held back from product evolution. But actually, now that we understand customers better and building brand experiences, what might we do with kind of building out different product experiences? So that's where I think the bravery will come in. Let's really think beyond the traditional marcoms and advertising.
I think that's amazing. Yesterday, I met a business who are they have an AI tool, which is basically creating synthetic audiences that we can start to look at to judge our work against. And I think, Caitlin, we talk about data, we talk about the efficacy behind a concept and the effectiveness that's going to deliver on the behalf of our clients. And I think tools like the guys I met yesterday will enable us to use AI to sort of test our work before we get any further down the line. So again, embryonic concepts can be tested against the data that we were given from clients, plus also some third party, which will enable AI to augment the concepts that we have. John, we've known each other for a few months, and I've always said that you are one of the, not only the best orators, but one of the sort of boldest characters that I've worked with. So absolutely no pressure, but for you from a...
Keep going anyway.
Okay, maybe just a little bit of pressure. But from a business perspective and point of view, why will being bold be important for brands, and how will that lead to positive outcomes?
So, and I guess it's from the perspective of a business, and I'll probably have a two-part answer there. One is I guess my own business, which I'm a part of, and it's ultimately owned by a bank, Santander. And the second thing I'll talk about is our clients, our B2B clients who are looking to grow internationally. So from the first point, think of our context. So banks in a crowded marketplace. So you've got fintechs, there's banks being approved every day of the week, not every day of the week, but a lot. You've then got people who didn't do banking before coming into banking. So it's a very crowded marketplace. You've then got our products, which are fairly similar. I mean, you've got your current accounts, they're fairly similar. So that's the challenge that was sort of given to me when I was encouraged to set this up, was that how do we really stand out in the marketplace? And I guess there was sort of three things there which we've tried to be bold to have an advantage. The first thing is we are looking to have a broader relationship with the client. So you think of what a bank normally speaks to. It's the person who does the finance director, who's looking at one part of the jigsaw puzzle, which is to try and save money. But then you've got the CEO who wants strategic vision. You've got the person who's doing operations who needs to know what the tariff changes are. So we're looking to broaden our relationship beyond just one part of the business. And that's really, really, really important, because if you want to be a long-term relationship with the client, basically you want to have as many people as possible voting for you in the decision. So that's point one. The second thing is we hear a lot about I want to embed myself in terms of my client's life. And what often happens is that people just throw out, here's the product this week, right? So what we're trying to do on the platform is saying, well, look, we know that you have a journey. You're selling your medical devices to Japan. And so we know your problems are getting the buyer, getting the supplier, doing the regulation, and at some stage you would like to get paid. So we would surface the yen account at that time, but when it's relevant to them. So you need to embed yourselves in their lives. And the third part for us is data, which is so important. And so we'll talk a lot about data forever, but who has control of the data, that's really important. So data on SMEs is particularly shallow. And so we'll have access to data on what both our clients and non-banking clients are interested in, which means it's behavioural and it's broader than what we currently have. We will know that they're interested in going into a new market, or they've got concerns in logistics. So that's really important for us as a business, to be bold, because we then differentiate ourselves. For the SMEs, our clients, your comment, Caitlin, 100% correct. There's often a figure thrown at me, so don't quote it in any sort of university research, but it's broadly, there are 25,000 new exporters in the UK and 25,000 fewer because they mess it up. So you do need that coaching, that guidance, and data is your guiding light to be able to do that. But we also know that companies that successfully export are so much more prosperous than those that don't. So we've got more than 5 million SMEs in the group, in Santander Group, and we know that they grow much faster and they default much less. So that's crucial for a country as well in terms of being able to get resilience and growth. And governments as well have a difficulty right now, because basically you've got a problem whereby you need to increase your defence spending, you need to increase your pensions, how are you going to pay for it? You need growth. So hopefully the impact of this platform, what we're trying to do is trying to help not only the companies grow, but also jobs in regional markets, and help that general prosperity throughout the whole country.
Thanks, John. I mean, just a very, very powerful answer. And again, the strength of being bold and using confidence to move forward together will, I hope, hold us in very, very good stead. So thank you both. My job is to try to summarise that fascinating discussion in a few words. But I think if somebody was to ask me about the discussion around creativity and AI, first thing, we've talked about relevancy a lot, and making sure that the way that we're really going to create impact with an audience is to use AI potentially to create that relevancy. However, relevancy will be key in moving forward and getting the amazing results. We touched on this thought about being digital first, but with a human touch. And when we've talked about how we may use algorithms and where algorithms are buying their information from, it's sort of thinking about where the human role is and how imperative that's going to be moving forwards, especially to our SME audiences. that laddered up to trust and understanding that we are going to be able to build stronger, longer relationships with an audience, and potentially a strong financial relationship if they trust us. And that trust can be deployed and delivered through influencers. It's actually very funny, Caitlin. I was thinking to myself, the first influence I had was my friend Neil in the playground, and then it became my friend in the bar that I used to drink with, and now we're in a totally different world about how we consume influencers, but the power of influencers to move our decisions forward. And then thirdly, we talked about how do we become, I'm actually going to use the word bold, because you quite rightly, Caitlin, challenged around the word brave. And actually this idea about making bold moves together as long as we have the efficacy behind that decision, whether that's data, whether that's a synthetic audience, however we're going to do that to move forward. And John, quite frankly, you did end on a very powerful statement, which is, in B2B, yes, we feel we're here to sell things for our clients, but the global impact of more contracts being signed, more products being delivered, has a far wider reaching impact on local governments, communities and society as a whole. So I really truly feel like when you think about that as your challenge, it really brings a sprite into my step and makes me want to go and do some more work for you, by the way. So if it's okay, I'm going to ask you the one big question at the end, which is to try to think about a prediction for what the future may hold, how we may use creativity, how B2B may change, and how AI may play a role in that. So, Caitlin, if I could come for you for some closing prediction with, again, just a little bit of pressure on it, but hopefully you can find something for us.
Yeah.
Can I copy your answer? Is that okay?
Yes, you may. Look, I think we are looking at a revolution, not evolution. And so I think the mistake to make in looking forward is to see where in brands or businesses that are using AI, where they trip. New technology will always have bumps in the road. So rather than using that as, I told you, let's steer away from it, learn from it and move forward. So I guess my prediction is the businesses that will thrive will be the ones that understand this is an opportunity to operate in a whole new world rather than looking back and trying to reshape what worked in the past for the future, because they're sort of like, AI is not the complete answer, therefore it's not the answer at all. I think that's the danger.
Great, what a great prediction. John?
So I think, I agree totally with Caitlin in the sense that this is definitely a revolution, and I think both of us being Australian, I think it's like for body surfing, you have to surf that wave rather than be eaten up by the wave and be dumped by it. So I think even AI is revolution. We do have experience of tech change, and I think there are sort of three principles, and haven't been involved a lot in the past with these. There's three principles I think which are relevant. One is the tech is crucial, so you need to understand it, harness it. You need to also you need to choose wisely, because there'll be lots of fads which come up. You need to choose exactly what is the one which is best for you. But the other 2 points which are really important for being successful with tech change, I think the first one is you need to make sure you're always meeting a client need. And so, when we've discussed in the past, Jason and I say, well, do I still think in 15 years there'll be governments? Yes, I think there probably will be, and therefore there'll be regulation. Will there be cultural differences in 15 years? Yes, I think there will be. Will there be still international trade? Yeah, I think there will be. So you've got a core client need. The way the tech will be in 15 years will change, but you need to make sure you're constantly aligning that to a client need. But the third one then is you also need to make sure it aligns to a clear business model, which is profitable, and not just using tech for the sake of it. So for me, my prediction or hope would be that you need to harness the tech, which is going to be in this one. I'm listening to things like the employee engagement. I'm listening to things like how we can get all of our creative activity out of many markets. So you need to harness that, because that's going to be the difference in the future. But you also need to make sure how you don't get eaten by the new business models. And so that's why I refer to things like trust and the way we can also differentiate in the human touch. So that's my prediction, is that I'll never predict the tech, but I think you need to stay core to a business model which is based on a client need.
Thank you both very much. That just leaves me to give you a heartfelt thank you for joining us today, not only from me, but also the entire of the B2B organisation within Dentsu. Thank you very much, and I can only look forward to what the future holds and how we can harness these new tools that are at our disposal to see where we go next.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Excellent host.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You can come back.